In an age of artificial intelligence, staying human is a competitive advantage. I am Rohith Namboothiri. This is RM Talks. Imagine two children. One starts learning piano at age 5. The other starts at 15. By 20, the first looks like a prodigy. The second looks ordinary. Everyone predicts the same future. The early starter will go far. The late starter will always be catching up. Now imagine, they are both 35. The prodigy stopped playing years ago. Burned out, lost interest, no direction. The late starter performs on weekends, still learning, still improving, still enjoying it. What happened? Talent didn't disappear. Time didn't reverse. Something else changed. We assume starting early is always an advantage, but sometimes starting early becomes a trap. I know this trap because I lived inside it. From the outside, my story looked impressive. I started coding when I was 8, freelancing at 12, built a company as a teenager, took on responsibilities most people face much later. People called it ahead of the curve, but what they didn't see was what happened next. When you start early, life doesn't always keep accelerating. Sometimes it plateaus, and when your identity is built on being ahead, a plateau feels like failure. Everyone around you expects a straight line, upward, but real lives don't move in straight lines. They move in waves. Growth, pause, reinvention, repeat. If you peak too early, the first pause feels terrifying because you don't know who you are without momentum. Here is a hidden copy. Early success gives you a script. You are the smart one, the talented one, the one who will go far. It feels good until the script stops matching reality. At some point, the environment changes. School ends, structure disappears, competition becomes invisible, problems become ambiguous. Suddenly, what made you exceptional before isn't enough anymore. Not because you became less capable, because the game changed. Imagine winning every race on a running track and then being dropped into a forest with no track at all. No lanes, no finish line, no referee, no applause. Just directionless terrain. Many early achievers struggle not with difficulty, but with ambiguity. Late starters, on the other hand, develop something different, comfort with uncertainty. They don't expect life to validate them early. So, they learn to keep going without applause. They build endurance instead of identity. Another quiet danger of starting early is that it can freeze your self-image. You become the person who already figured things out, which makes it harder to admit when you haven't. Harder to start from zero again. Harder to be a beginner in public. Harder to fail visibly. But reinvention always requires beginner status. Always. You cannot transform while protecting an old identity. There was a period in my life where nothing dramatic happened. No big failures, no big wins either. Just drift. And drift is uncomfortable when your past was defined by moment. You start comparing yourself to your younger self, not to others, to who you used to be. That comparison is brutal because the younger version of you had fewer responsibilities, more time, and lower expectations. Of course, they moved faster, but we forget that. We interpret slowdown as decline. Here's the insight that changed how I see this. Early advantage is not permanent capital. It is an early lead in every long race. And in long races, pace matters more than starting speed. Life is not a sprint with a finish line at 30. It is closer to a marathon with no visible end. Some people start fast and burn energy early. Some start slow and build stamina. Some stop and restart multiple times. And all of these paths can still lead somewhere meaningful. Another overlooked truth is that the skills that create early success are not always the skills needed for sustained success. School rewards memory and compliance. The real world rewards judgment and adaptability. Early careers reward energy and availability. Later stages reward clarity and selectivity. If you don't update your skill set, the old advantages fade. Think of it like using a map from a different city. It worked perfectly before, now it just confuses you. There is also a psychological shift. When success comes early, you get used to being recognized. When recognition slows down, it feels like being invisibility. But invisibility is where most real growth happens. Quiet, unnoticed, internal. No applause, no announcements, just rebuilding. Late bloomers are familiar with this state. Early achievers often are not. So they interpret silence as stagnation, when it may actually be preparation. We rarely hear stories about the middle phase of people's lives. We hear the meteoric rise, then the triumphant comeback, but the long stretch in between is edited out. That middle phase is where identity dissolves and reforms. It is uncomfortable, uncertain, open, often lonely, and completely normal. The real trap is not starting early. It is believing that your early position defines your entire trajectory. It doesn't. Life keeps reshuffling the deck. Industries change, technology shifts, priorities evolve. You evolve. The person who succeeds long term is not the one who started first. It is the one who keeps adapting. If you started late, you're not behind. If you started early and slowed down, you're not broken. You're just somewhere in the cycle. Here is a more useful way to measure progress. Not how far ahead am I, but am I still moving? Forward movement can be slow, invisible, non-linear. It still counts. Some of the most resilient people I know reinvented themselves multiple times. New careers, new skills, new identities. They're not defined by when they started, they're defined by their willingness to restart. Starting early gives you one advantage. Restarting gives you many. If there is one message I wish more young people heard, it is this. Your life is not ruined if you are not extraordinary at 20. And it is not guaranteed if you are. Both paths remain open. The goal is not to peak early. It is to remain capable of growth for decades. To stay curious, flexible, willing to look foolish while learning something new. Because the real opposite of success is not failure, it is rigidity. Early advantage becomes a trap only if you cling to it. If you treat it as proof of what you must remain, let it go, and it becomes something better. Evidence that you can learn fast, and if you could do it once, you can do it again. Maybe in a different field, at a different pace, with a different definition of success. Life does not reward the earliest starter. It rewards the most adaptable traveler. So if you feel behind, you may simply be at the beginning of your real journey. If you feel stuck, you may be between chapters. And if your early advantage feels like a burden, you're not alone. You're just learning that being ahead is not same as knowing where to go. Starting early can change your trajectory, but only if you keep moving. Because in the longest race of all, there is no permanent lead.